Yankees had won it, Bobby Thompson had done it, and Yogi read the comics all the while. Rock and roll was being born, marijuana we would scorn. So down on the corner, the national pastime went on trial. We're talking baseball, Klazuski, Campanella, talking baseball.
Okay, whale headers, here's the next installment of my tutorial series. In this series, I am going to go over the team menu. From here you can select any team and see their information. I'm just going to look at it with the Red Sox information. As you can see here, it'll have the current standings. Don't worry about this. Is sim information to get to this date. You can see this. You'll see your schedule, your batting leaders, pitching leaders, current injuries, your lineup, rotation, bullpen. You can also click through and see up-to-date information on the records of all your farm teams. You can see top prospect information right here. If you click next to the next tab, it'll show you the players tab. You can either have an overview where you can see your active roster, your 40-man roster, all players in the organization. You can click to see the minor leaguers, which shows you the farm system, shows you the top prospects, all the players, and there's different views that you can set. In the overview section, I want to show you the 40-man roster. This is showing right now batting ratings. The default is this. It has the nationality, the morale, personal information, overall rating, potential rating, their current salary, how many years left. You can go to batter ratings, come over here and just have all batters. You can put it down so you can show all your catches, third base, all infielders, outfielders, DH. You can show all kind of different type of information. This is during the season. You'd be able to see all the regular batting stats. The batters, you can see some specialized stats, walk percentage, strikeout percentage, runs created. You can see individual pitches rating. So like each pitcher, let's go to the pitchers. Each pitcher has individual pitches rated, and they combine these actual ratings into stuff. If I look at the pitcher ratings, there's stuff. Stuff is basically how effective you are striking out players. You can movement will basically limit home runs. So if I saw Matt Bowman is the best at limiting home runs from all the guys. This is on the 20/80 scouting scale, 50 being average. Each major grade is one standard deviation away. So a guy that's 50 is average, and this is average within our league. It's all relative to our league. So if a guy is 50, he's a 50 in our league. Movement will, so these guys are better than average in stopping home runs. Chad Kuhl is not. Control is basically walks. Stuff versus lefties and righties is just what it says. It's their ability to strike out lefties and righties. It has their regular velocity, their stamina. These things can all be seen on the individual pages. Their hold for getting out, preventing the running game. This says whether they're fly ball pitchers, whether they're neutral, extreme fly ball, ground ball, and they have extreme ground ball. So you can actually pick a staff and cater your staff to your defense, or vice versa. If you have a great defense, you might want to get extreme ground ball pitchers. Extreme ground ball pitches generally, right, will give up less home runs. So if you have a really good infield, you might want to target guys that are extreme ground ball pitches, and vice versa. You have a great outfield playing a big park, you go with a fly ball pitcher, and you have guys with good range. But that's getting into details. I want this to be more of an overview. We have fielding stats, and this includes, it has advanced fielding stats. So during the ongoing season, you'll be able to see how many extreme plays that guys are able to get to. So, because each guy's rated for range, throwing arm, stuff like that. And this will actually show during the season how many great plays your player was able to make. And that would be reflected also if I go into batting ratings. If I go into default, no, those are stats. They actually track WAR. Oh, here it is. Okay, so if you can see right here, it has in the batting column, if I go back to batters, it would show you during the season what the player's WAR. And the player's WAR is the same as you'd find on something like Baseball Reference. And you would have, this takes into account everything that the player does. Base running, takes into account batting, it takes into account fielding. So this is available in the game all year, and as you have multiple seasons, we'll have a history of the guys who have the most WAR. Okay, there's also other information, position ratings. If you wanted to get an overview and you're looking at your team, players are rated with overall ratings at every position. So, for example, Andrelton Simmons is an 80 at shortstop. An 80 is the top of the scale. There's only a handful of players that would get rated as an 80 overall. But you can sort your guys by position. So if you're looking at your team and you're trying to decide, okay, which player should I put in which position, you'll be able to look and compare the players. In here, like Cody Bellinger is a 65. Again, 50 is average. And I'll have on this post, I will add and put the overall scouting scales so you have an idea of what the 50 45 is, basically bench players most of the time, or fifth starters. But I'll have all that information on the post so you can look at that at your leisure. There's popularity information here, how popular the players are, and this is built in. This will impact how much money you make in your fan interest. The more popular players you have, the more interest you'll have in your fans. And again, if you don't want to worry about this, you don't have to worry about it, but it's there. These are just the overall ratings. As you can see, Giancarlo Stanton is a 70 player, which is a very good player. Joey Gallo is a 65. Now, these ratings, I'll remind you, are based on the beginning of the 2018 season. So we won't be using these ratings. We'll have updated ratings in 2019 when we stop playing next year. Okay, they have financial info. So this has more information about salaries, how many years left. This is the guy has 1 year left, and it's an arbitration year. Tyler Flowers has 1 year left, and this 1 year left right here, this is the roster as of October 17th. So this is before we have free agents. So some of these guys, like Pedroia's, all these guys with ones right now, will be free agents. Okay. You can look at financial information. There's personality and morale. Personality and morale is this is for player morale, is team, how the team chemistry is. The player role is the player happy with his role. So you can sign a guy as a free agent, and you could promise him the starting shortstop. And if you decide later not to have him as your starting shortstop, he's not going to be happy with his role, and this could impact when he resigns with you. It can also have a minimal impact on how your team's doing, because your team will actually have a chemistry, which I'll show you in a different video. This is his player performance, how happy he is with what he's doing, how happy he is with the team performance. And this is team transactions. Is he happy with the transactions that the team's making? Now, this is all built into the game. This is stuff that, for the most part, you can ignore. But if you're interested, there's a lot more information related to your team that you can tweak with your team in this game. You can also customize all of these things. I've customized the batter ratings to include injuries, so I can see what the guy's injury ratings are. Okay, Joey Gallo is durable. Giancarlo Stanton is normal. I don't have anybody. Let's see if I have any pitchers that are. I don't have any fragile players, because you can have guys that are rated as fragile. And I created also pitcher ratings with injuries. Okay, so that's the player menu. There's a lot of information. You can choose what you want to look at. You can create your own, customize if you want to have certain things that you look at. You can also click on your minor leagues and have a bunch of information related to that too. Okay. In the game, you can see all these different ratings are either the OOTP Scouting Association, which we all share that one. We all get to see that one. And this one is your individual scouting director and your scouting department's assessment. Those might be different than the OSA scouting. What impacts them is the quality of your scouting director, but also how much money you have in your scouting budget. If you have more money in your scouting budget, the game considers that you can have more scouts active. You can send scouts out on more trips to do scouting. The other things that impact is you'll know your team better than you'll know other teams. They'll be more accurate because they see the players more often. The longer that your scouting director is in place, the better his scouting information is going to be, because he has a system in place and he has an opportunity to scout particular players more than once. Okay, so that's the basic overview of the players menu. Then there's rosters and transactions. With this, and you can change what information is on there for each team. So right here I have my active roster, which right now has 40 players on it. And I can scroll through and I can change what information I have on there if I'm interested in it. I can have my statistics, which there's none right now. It is the 40-man roster. If I wanted to move a player from the 25 to AAA, for example, I can just grab Chad Kuhl here, and I can just drag him over to the AAA roster, and he's moved to AAA. There's limitations, of course. If a guy can't be, if a guy needs Chad Kuhl right there, AAA, a guy can be on the 40-man roster and go to AAA. He can actually go to these different teams. There's limitations right here. I have a rookie, my rookie team. Over here I have my short season A team. I have my A team. I have my, this is A advanced, AA, AAA. Now I have players in all these teams, but some of the other people, like if I go to San Francisco, for example, and see when you change the team, it keeps you on the page. He has no minor league players. Now he'll be able to fill them out, and we're going to have some special rules for the transition year on filling out your minor leagues. For the most part, you'll have to pay some type of bonus in the first year to sign small bonus. It might be like $50,000. Players that are major league quality, though, they already have a salary request. So to sign somebody who's like Luis Valbuena, he might request $1.5 million or something like that. So it's already built into the game an added cost if you have higher quality players. You're not going to be able to fill your rookie league though with major league players or veterans. There's rules for that, and I'll get into that at a different time. That'll be in the rules. Okay, so we're in rosters and transactions. Let's go back to the Red Sox. You can make certain other moves. You can right mouse click on any player. During the off season, you can offer him an extension on his contract. You can set game strategy. You can request a scouting report, which the more often you request scouting reports on particular players, the better your information. So say you're interested in getting a player during the season, you can go to that team's roster, right mouse click on them and request a scouting report, and a day or two later in the game, you'll get a scouting report from your scouting director. Okay, you can do things like you can set a player's position. You can decide that if a player is a multi-position player and you want him to play primarily one position, you can set that position. I've had to do that with Kyle Schwarber. In this version of the game, Kyle Schwarber. See, his primary position is a catcher. So what I would do is, because I don't want him playing primary as a catcher, I can click him there. I can also go into his individual strategy page, which I won't do now. I'll cover that in the lineups and strategy in depth. But right now I just wanted to be able to show you some of the information that we have in this menu as an overview. Okay, this is also in the main team. So as you can see, there's all kind of player information and that you can get to from that menu. There's pitching. This is for setting your starting rotation, and like I said, I'll cover this in another video. Lineups. You can set your lineups versus righties versus lefty DH. You can do a lot of things. I'll cover that in detail on another time. This is my bench coach is Alex Cora. This is the team strategy setups. You can pick which type of overall scheme that you want. I'm a big stat head, so I'm going to pick sabermetric, and it would change the overall team settings. I can fine-tune those even further, but again, I'll cover this in the computer manager and lineup section. Okay, and now there's the front office, which I want to cover a little bit in detail today. The schedule, the upcoming schedule for the teams. Right now we're still in January. I can't get ahead until the next see the actual schedule isn't in place yet. Just regular info that you can get about your team and batting leaders, fielding, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that you can get on the team menu. Some of this stuff you can get to through other menus. They try to make it flexible to make it easier to find stuff. Okay, but this is the main thing I wanted to talk about today here, because I wanted to be able to show you how to look at your players. Like I said, you can click on there and you can get to your players. But what you can also do, and this is going to be relevant for this year, is this is the front office section. This is basically the main GM menu. And as you can see on here, I have it set so I can see Rule 5 eligible players, which will be one of the things that we're going to have to concern ourselves with this year. I have a lot of guys that are Rule 5 eligible. Some other teams don't. But you can pick different bits of information. Again, this is up to you to decide. Like, as everybody learns the game, they're going to, like right now, Rule 5 eligible is something that I'm interested in because we're in the off season. During the season, I'm probably not going to need that, during the season. So I replace that information. We have basic. This is up here is basic budget information, what my current player payroll is, and it's $114 million, but that's before I non-tender players. If I non-tender $15 million in contracts, my payroll will be lower. Money for free agents, I'm going to have a lot of it because I've got an extremely low payroll. This is the market size, fan loyalty, and fan interest. It looks a little different than the information that I posted. That's because the game rounds off some things. Eventually, this will stay the same. It will change. Like I've told you, if your fan interest, if you lose your fan interest, is going to go down. Depending on how high your fan loyalty is, it will relate to that, and that will affect different things. We have some budget information here, revenue, which I'm not going to get into detail. There's information about how much extensions you can sign. There's money for free agents, which are players that you're going to bring into your organization. Extensions is money for players that you already have that you are going to sign long term. It's like when we sign the long term contracts. That figure right now is the same for me because of the amount of money I have. For some teams, it might be different. If somebody already has a lot of long-term contracts already set, it would show that, and which leads me to, if I click here on the salaries page, which is probably one of the first pages that you're going to need to learn. And like I said, this is I can go into the menu and go to the front office. I can either get there from the team home screen and click here, or I can come up to the menu and go to front office, which takes me to the main page. I can go to salaries, and what this does is like the old rosters that we had last year. It has a view across multiple years, and you can scroll down There is information next to each player, and auto means is the guy's in the first 3 years of his contract, so his contract is auto renewed if you don't non-tender him. The A right here means an arbitration. So right now, Edwin Diaz in 2018, which is the season that we're at the end of, I paid $10 million for his contract. He still has 1 more year left as a controllable player, so he's auto. Matt Bowman, he paid $7 million last year. He's got 1 more auto. So last year he was what was a C2 on our contract. Byron Buxton, he's signed long-term, multiple years, and it shows that. These are all guaranteed. If there's nothing on the side of it, the player either has an expiring contract, which, see right here, Greinke's a free agent, Beltre's a free agent, Giancarlo Stanton has 1 more year left, and that's it. That's a guaranteed contract. Dustin Pedroia has 1 more year left. He was on a guaranteed contract. And Drillton Simmons had a guaranteed contract. The guys that were FS&Ts, I'm going to be covering them separately. You're going to have to, I will be giving a list to everybody for the FS&Ts. If you want to cut them, you can cut them, but you'll have to give me that information separate. And because those are non-guaranteed for this year, going into next year, they will be guaranteed. Just like the long-term contracts, a guy like Buxton, right now in our league, they were guaranteed for 33% of the value of the contract. You could buy them out by paying 33%. For this year, you're going to be able to buy them out for 16%, but after this year, they'll be fully guaranteed. But looking over at my roster, it's sorted by the highest contract down. You can change the sort, of course, by year. I can look to see, okay, what are my contracts that I have, and it has the totals. So right now, I have, if I kept everybody, I would have 114 million in contracts. All of these guys that have auto, I can renew at that contract. These guys have arbitration, and that's an estimate of how much they would get in arbitration. They might get higher depending on how well they did, but this is the estimate based on their current ratings. So if I wanted to keep Justin Bour for next year, they estimate that I'd have to keep him. I'd have to sign him for $6 million. Matt Bowman's auto. So, but this is where you would look to see your contracts, and like most of the things, you can you can hover over the player and right mouse click and do a bunch of things with them. So I can open a scouting report, go to his player profile. I can, all the things I was able to do on the other page. I can trade away the player. I can shop him around. This is for, I can set a status to be available, which there's a screen that you'll be able to go to. If guys have guys that shown as available, you can look to see who's looking to deal who. This is transactions, so when it comes time for the protection rosters, you'll have a deadline. You'll go in and you can release players. Before that, you can go there individually, or you could go into the roster and pick the players. You know, you'd have a list of your players, and you would print up that list, decide who you're going to keep, and then you would come in here and then you would do the updates. So back to the front office. Front office, see, here's the owner tab. What we're going to do with owners is right now I have the team owner for the team when I put his in here. Each owner has his information here. What I'm going to do with this is we're going to set all owners with the exact same ratings, and everybody's going to be able to pick an owner, and he can be whoever you want. You know, Gary might have Michael. I can't think of his name. The guy from The Office. He can have him as his owner, because the owners are basically irrelevant in this game. They don't really do much in this game now because we have it set. I set it that way so that they're irrelevant. Okay, there's accounting, and I'm not really going to get into this other than just kind of looking at it. You know, here's the budget from last year. Here's the budget for this year. This is the projection for the budget in the next few years. This can change based on how much money you're making, because our budgets, like in Dynasty, like in last year in Dynasty, it's tied to how much money we generate, and you generate money in this game by primarily winning games. The more you win, the higher your fan interest, the more money you're going to have. There's differences with size of the markets, which you guys kind of already heard about that. So like the Yankees are going to be able to generate more money. But right now it's not showing any revenue sharing. I have it set though so that the difference between our top revenue teams and our bottom revenue teams are going to be it's going to be top to bottom about 65%. That's what we had before. So it's not anywhere near as wide as the major leagues, and that will vary. But looking at here, this season ticket revenue, gate revenue, I'll go over this in a separate video. You have expenses. Player expenses is your salaries, staff expenses. So right now my staff, my assistant GM, my manager, my pitching coach, all that stuff. And you can set that, you can decide to pare that down. Scouting expenses, draft expenses, that's the amateur draft, player development. These are all things that you can modify and change depending on how you want to manage your team. One of the things I like about this game is there are a lot of options for strategy. There's a lot of different ways of doing things. Just like in Dynasty, Joel would focus on his 40-man. He wouldn't mess with minor leaguers and stuff. Well, in this game, he can still continue to do that. He can cut down the draft expenses. He can have it be the lowest possible. He has no minor leaguers, so he doesn't really have to spend that much money on player development. His scouting, you're going to want to spend some money on scouting just because your scouts help you to win games. But he can decide, okay, I don't need an amateur scouting budget. I don't need a scouting budget for minor leaguers. All I'm interested in is my 40-man, so he can make his entire scouting budget just for his major league team. So anyway, that's that. Here's again the salaries page. Upcoming free agents. So during the season, you'll be able to come in any time and see who's going to be a free agent. This year, all the guys that are already set to be free agents will be free agents. Next year, anybody that's on your upcoming free agent list, you'll be able to sign them to an extension during the season. Okay? So if you have a player that you have on your team, he's becoming a free agent, just know, though, that the game is set, from what I've seen, is that the deeper you get into the season, the more difficult it is to get the guy to sign an extension. There are some players, and it's dependent on their ratings. Some players will say, I don't want to talk to you about a long-term contract. I want to become a free agent. So again, that's part of the realism. Here's the scouting. Here's my scouting director. Right now I have it set where my scouting budget is $20 million. You can set this in the near the end of the off season. You don't have to set this now, so you can set this low at the beginning. So this way you have some flexibility in how much money that you're going to spend on your free agents. If you have money left over, you can up your scouting budget. And see, this says what the league baseline is. That's the average team, what it's set at. And this is the maximum that I can spend right here. If the money that I spend, though, if I spend more than the baseline, that's money basically that I can't use for free agents. So that's a choice. It's another strategy setting. On here, you have sliders. So again, like I said with Joel could come over here and set his. Right now, I'm set to spend $5,400,000 on my major league scouting budget. I also have a minor league scouting amount of information. I can change how much I spend on that. A guy like Joel can say, okay, international scouting, I'm not paying attention to that. Amateur scouting, I want to put that to 0. Minor league scouting, I'm going to put that at a lower figure. And then he can say, he could basically spend the same amount of money on his major league scouting, which when it comes to playing the game and giving his bench coach information within game for strategy, he and I would both have the same basic budget for that information. So if our scouts are exactly the same, we'd have the exact same information. And I could be spending $20 million on the whole thing, and he could be just spending $5.4 million right here. But this has what the guy's reputation is, what his scouting grades are. There's a player development, and what this is this will show you, and you can this is, you can see it's a grid. It has your top prospects, what your affiliates are, how much money you're spending on player development. Now, in this game, how we're tethered to Major League Baseball, unlike some of these other games, our development for our players is going to take place when the new card set comes out, when the new player ratings come out. Our development starts on the players. It goes from whatever the ratings are, but during the course of the season, their ratings can actually change. They can go up, they can go down, but for us, the development, you're only going to have that development. It's only going to keep from the beginning of spring training to the end of the season. Whatever happens will disappear because we will stay for the next season. We'll go to the actual ratings. Some leagues play and they start off with a ratings, and then they play with the development on. So the progress and progression of their players can change differently than what happens in real life. We're going to stay tethered to Major League Baseball. So this is another choice that you can decide that if you don't have any minor leaguers, you don't need a development budget. You can say, well, this is only for this year. The main people that will progress would be, for us, would be AA and AAA players. We might have players that at the start of the season, they're not quite ready for the major leagues. But we've got a good development budget, which means we're spending money, philosophically anyway, we're spending money on additional hitting coaches, we're spending money on nutrition, stuff like that. So players can not be ready. Like right here, here's Ronald Acuna, and this is based on last year. His overall rating, which is his current rating, is a 25. Okay, that means he is rated right now to be well below average. Okay, a 50 is an average player. A 45 is like a bench player. A 40 is, generally speaking, like a 4A player. A guy that's in AAA that's kind of in between. He's decent enough for the majors to fill in. A 30, I said 40, 45, 40, 4A, 35. Now you're starting to get into just marginal prospects. 30s they're not non-prospects, but they're not very good. And a 20 is basically a non-prospect. So right now, Acuna's overall rating, if I get that back up, is his overall rating. So I have to hover on it. His overall rating is a 20 right now, but a 70 potential, and a 70 potential that's a top-notch player. Well, between spring training and say the halfway point, his overall rating might progress. He might jump from a 25 to a 45. He might jump from a 25 to a 40. So he becomes a more usable player. And then by bringing him to the major leagues, his progression could be accelerated because now he's facing better competition, and now his progress accelerates. So for the development for our league and how I have it set up, it's mainly going to be for guys that are, players that are minor leaguers that are on the cusp of the major leagues. So you might not want to spend as much money as, you might not want to max this out, but that's up to your preference. That's your strategy. We'll all learn how this works out. What will also happen with the development engine, sometimes players will regress. They won't be as good. Sometimes a player can get an injury during a season, and the injury will hurt him. He'll have a shoulder problem during the season, and his ratings might drop a little bit. But what that does is that during the course of a season, players can be better or worse, that their overall talent can change. Now, it's not generally, except in a case of a top prospect where all of a sudden a top prospect blooms, okay, which doesn't happen all the time, but from what I've seen, it happens occasionally. Most of the players will go up or down slightly, okay? But there will be, like I said, some players might get a little bit better. Younger players will tend to get better. Older players will tend to get older, and they'll get worse. But anyway, that's one of the features in this game. You don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff, as I've mentioned in one of the other videos, and what I mentioned in some of the things that I've written up. As far as minor league information and development, you can just ignore all this. You can have the AI draft your minor leaguers, okay, assign them to the appropriate level in your minor leagues, take care of the development so that when the AI thinks that the player is ready for his next level, they'll promote the player. If you're interested in this stuff and you're into it, you can manage that part yourself. But that's up to each individual guy. That's one of the things that I really like about this game is the flexibility of controlling the game and your team to the level of your interest and your time. If you don't have time, you're very busy, you can set the AI to control a lot of the facets of the game and still be competitive. You can spend time setting your computer manager so that your computer manager is competitive, that your computer manager does what you want. You spend the time setting up your computer manager, and then the computer manager mimics the style of play that you want. If you're not busy, if you have a lot of time, then you can get into the weeds on a lot of this stuff. You can do things like right here. Okay, I'm going to go back to the home screen, and I'm going to go to the Poor Sox, and then this is the Poor Sox team. And I can go to the players, and this will show me just the Poor Sox players. Okay, just the roster of the Poor Sox. Okay, this would be their pitching staff. You can go in and actually change your set up your computer manager for your teams. Now, for most of us, and that includes me, we'll just have the AI take care of this. Okay, we won't have to set up rotations and lineups and stuff like that for our minor leaguers. We'll have the AI take care of it. But if you're like a big minor league junkie and your team stinks in 1 year, you can basically have your major league team on autopilot where you just make trades and stuff like that, and you can pay attention more to your farm system. You know, you can put your efforts into that to help to build your team. If you're in rebuild mode, you can spend your time here. But that's by choice. That's a choice that you have. And when it comes to minor league systems, okay, I've got the Poor Sox here. I believe if I go to, say, the Astros, this will take me to the Astros. This is the Astros team, and I have the same option. If I'm the Astros, I can go to my team. I can see my players. I can see my rosters and transactions. And as you can see, the Astros right now only have 3 players in AAA. That's okay. The game has something called ghost players. And what happens is whatever number of minor leaguers and farm players that you have on your team, the game will still operate. Your players will play. They will get experience playing. They will progress. They will not progress, but they'll still be able to play. So if you want a small farm system, if what you want to do is we have the amateur draft every year, you let your computer AI grab some players, you have some players, they progress up your farm system, you pay attention when you want, but you don't have to be involved in that. But if you want to spend the minimum, you can do that and have that. This will make our league more competitive. If we have people that are low on time that are able to have their AI handle different tasks that they don't have time for, they can still have different facets of the game without having to invest the time. This will make our league more competitive. And having a more competitive league is a better league. All right, so I'm going to go back to the Red Sox. I basically covered, just done an overview to try to help you to find players. Just so you pick your team as an overview. Okay. You can go to players. Players, you can see all kind of information for your players for your team. You can pick what part of your roster. You can go to different screens. So you can see information. You can see financial information. You can also go to your front office, go to salaries, and see an overview of all your salaries and your contract statuses down here. It has a legend for everything. So you can see exactly what these little symbols on the side of the players are. Okay, you can see other information about your team. Okay, if I go back to front office, I can see finances, owners, accounting, upcoming free agents, scouting information, player development. So basically this team area, and just let me just show you this. You can have this display on different things: potential ratings, league prospect rankings. There's a lot of flexibility. All right, so I think that's enough for now. I went into a little bit more than I originally planned, but this will conclude this video tutorial on the team menu. Actually, I'll probably go into consider this a basic tutorial of that with the player information, and just know I'm just showing you this. There's additional reports that are team related, player potential, player development. There's other information here that I'll go over in another time. I hope this wasn't too much for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you look forward to the next video tutorial.